Welcome back to another episode of Critically Incorrect, your weekly gaming podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Online, here today with Charlie, if you wanted to say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, we got a pretty cool episode for you. A lot of PlayStation goodness in here and some, pretty decent sized announcements. Pretty big one we'll start off with E3. But yeah, of course, all that comes after what we talk about over what we've been playing. So, Charlie, over the last week or so, what have you been playing gaming-wise?
Yeah, my main thing this week has just been Fortnite, to be honest. I've played a hell of a lot of Fortnite. I think I'm like level 33 or something. Like, it's basically all I've been playing. I'm really enjoying the game without building, honestly. Like, it's just so much fun without it, because it's just nowhere near as sweaty, and I can have more fun on it. So that's been the main thing I've been playing with a couple different groups of mates. And then aside from that, the new DLC for Beat Saber came out today, the Fall Out Boy song. So I was playing through some of those, which is quite fun because for DLC tracks, they're actually kind of difficult, which
Yo,
is
they added
nice.
Fall Out Boy?
For a change. Yeah, they added it today.
Shit,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's like 8 tracks. And yeah, they're pretty difficult compared to a lot of the licensed tracks, which is nice. Makes a change, and it uses the two new like block types that they added in the last update, which is cool. So glad to see they're using those. They announced it like yesterday. I assumed it was going to come out like next week or something, and then when I was home, they'd like posted saying it's out. So that was a nice little surprise. Um, but that's about it, really. I have tried a bit of Tiny Tina as well. I've played a few hours of that, but I don't really have too much to say about it yet because there's been a lot of weird server issues with it, so I haven't been able to play as much as me and my mates have wanted to. Just because there's been a lot of weird connection issues, and when we get into games, a lot of the time one of us like can't shoot guns or like disconnects. Like there's some really weird stuff going on with that right now, so hopefully they fix that soon because I want to play it and I can do solo, but I more got it to play with my mates. So we're all kind of holding off and giving it a go every couple of days to see if it's fixed. So I've played a few hours of that, but not enough to really judge it. But that is about it.
Nice, nice. Pretty boring week for me, to be honest. I haven't really played much. Even Elden Ring, I've only played probably like a few hours since I've last spoken. I literally haven't touched my PS5 in like 4 days. I tried playing something yesterday, but like, I don't know. I must have like, there's something wrong with like my setup right now because like I turned it on and I was like trying to get it on the screen. It wasn't showing up, and I was like, you know what? I don't really care to
Yeah.
play anything like right now. So I just decided to just give up and just focus on other stuff. So I actually haven't played much besides a few hours of Elden Ring, but yeah, I do want to get back into that because I'm kind of slacking. But yeah, that's cool. In terms of releases this week, Apex Legends' next generation version's out, so PS5, Xbox Series X, and Series S. Yeah, and then Weird West. This is the Devolver Digital game. I'm sure you've seen it at one of their showcases at E3. Actually, it looked pretty interesting when I saw it, so I'm gonna definitely look into that more after this podcast because I didn't realize it came out this week. Always down for Devolver games. Them and Annapurna are always like really good publishers for indies, so looking at that one. So yeah. Anyways, I teased this earlier, but yeah, we're starting off with a pretty big news story. E3 is canceled. Like this is official like for this year. No digital event, nothing. The ESA just confirmed that they're not going to have any plans. Just for the first time in I think 25 years or something like that. Yeah, no E3. It's funny. Jeff tweeted out like a little winky face, like almost like the exact minute this announcement came out, which is funny. He must have known like the press release or something was dropping. And then of course he tweeted out more like Summer Game Fest stuff, which is funny. Yeah, in terms of my thoughts on it, it's like E3 has really been kind of dead for like the last few years. Like it hasn't really been that good. There's been like some publishers that have been like supporting it, right? But really, it's like what Nintendo has always done direct for like the last 5 years, 5+ years, definitely way longer than that, probably like 7. Sony's obviously done that over like the last few years as well. Um, there wasn't really many like in-person events as well. Like they were all doing like keynotes anyway under like the E3 name, right? So yeah, it's just change of times. I also don't think it's really healthy for the industry to like really crunch down for like an E3 demo all at the same time. Like games should just be shown when they're ready, right? Like crunching, for every like game and project to give an update by like one certain time in June is like nice for fans, but like that's not healthy for the industry. It does suck though, because like obviously E3 is a really cool networking time where like game developers all around the world get to like fly down and see each other, and that's a really big loss to the industry because now it's like you only really get that with GDC if you go there and like some other conventions like PAX. But in terms of like how it's been over the recent years, it's not really that big of a loss. They do say currently they're planning on coming back next year, but I don't know if I believe that. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear the same thing next year and it's just like gone, you know. So, Charlie, let me know what you think about all this.
Yeah, I mean, like you, I'm basically like E3 has been dead for the past few years. I think for me, the last decent year was probably 2017. 2018 was okay. That was the one I went to. But and that was fun, but even then you could tell like it was getting worse. Like there was a lot less stuff there than previous years. I think it coming back next year is going to be very dependent on Xbox and Nintendo. I think those two guys are kind of like the last big boys that still like kept ties to the ESA, especially Nintendo. Xbox did start to veer away, and they started showing stuff with Jeff and being a part of that. Nintendo still haven't joined up with Summer Game Fest. I think if they do this year, I think that's it. I don't think there's really any coming back next year because the ESA will probably, send out their emails asking if people want to join up again. And, if, say, Nintendo join up Summer Game Fest this year, why would they go back to the ESA when they'd want thousands of dollars just to have the E3 name in there when there's literally no point doing that? Like, it's no benefit to them. So we'll see, but I just don't see it coming back at all at this point. Like, what's the point? It's a shame because, it's been a staple in the industry for so many years, but times have changed a lot. And I think COVID has shown a lot of people that you don't need to do those physical events anymore to show off that stuff. Like you said, you can just show stuff when you're ready, and people will see it if they want to see it, right? Like there's just no need for that kind of event anymore. So we'll see, but I mean, it was inevitable. Like, who didn't see this coming, really? So yeah.
I still miss those like physical events. I hope something comes up when we get more of those. Like I would love PlayStation to go back and do PlayStation Experience. I went to the one that was in San Francisco back in 2015. That was a great convention. It was like literally made for the fans, and like got to like it was. I don't know. I was talking to a lot of developers there even when I was like 15. It was just really chill and such a cool environment. I just want more of those conventions around. So hopefully something. There's always been rumors of PlayStation bringing that back, but I don't know. Based on how they've been in like recent years, it doesn't line up with our current like company ideas. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll move on. Anyways, a new story that broke today, which is pretty exciting, is Hyperlight Breaker being announced. This is by, I believe, like Heart Machine Games or something like that. They made Hyperlight Drifter, and then they also recently came out with Solar Ash, which Charlie played. I also really want to play that one soon. It's definitely on the list. But yeah, Hyperlight Breaker is essentially, I'm gonna guess it's the sequel to Hyperlight Drifter. I haven't played Hyperlight Drifter. It's one I own thanks to Epic, but I haven't played yet. The big focus on this one, though, is it's a 3D co-op game, though, and it's set in the universe of Hyperlight Drifter, so I'm guessing maybe there's, like, a difference in protagonists or something. Either way, pretty soon, reveal after Solar Ash, so I'm kind of surprised, but I did look at the trailer. I was, like, in uni, but I did check it out. It looked pretty cool. Charlie, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, it looked pretty interesting. They didn't show too much. It's coming to early access next spring, so I mean the reason it's probably getting announced so soon after Solar Ash is I imagine it hasn't been in development for terribly long if it's going into early access next year. So that gives them roughly another year of development before it's in an early state. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what this is. I imagine gameplay wise, it's going to be similar to Solar Ash. It's another 3D game, so it's their second 3D game. Hyperlight Drifter wasn't, so it's co-op, which is interesting. I don't really know. I know they said it's like a massive world, so I guess it's like semi-open world maybe. But yeah, they didn't really show too much. There was a tiny snippet of gameplay in the trailer, but I'm definitely interested to see more. I really liked Solar Ash from what I played, so and I do need to go and play Hyperlight Drifter at some point. It's on my list of stuff. Like you, I've got it on my Epic launcher. I think I've got it on Steam as well, to be honest. But yeah, I do need to play it, but it does look cool. So definitely gonna be keeping my eye on this one.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely down. I do need to play Hyperlight Drifter and Solar Ash. Like both of those look artistically really beautiful, and they also just look like really good games. And I've heard nothing but praise about them. So seeing this, honestly, I'm glad I did because it reminds me to go back to those games, which are very high on my list, to be honest. So yeah, pretty cool stuff over there. MetaQuest showcase is happening pretty soon here. Yeah, Facebook announced that, or I guess Meta announced that. Never gets, not weird, right? But yeah, this is coming out on April 20th, so we still got a few weeks away. Obviously, by the name, it's going to be a showcase for probably just software, I'm guessing, for, the MetaQuest that's currently out. The MetaQuest 2, I think they're calling it. Just Oculus Quest 2, right? I don't think they'll show off a new headset here. Charlie, I'm not plugged into the rumors, but I feel like that'd be pretty soon after the Oculus Quest 2, but who knows, honestly. But in terms of software, I think they've announced 2 games currently. So Among Us VR is showing up here, so that's brilliant. And then also Cities VR, which is based on the name. It's a spin-off of the Cities Skyline series. They're showing off their VR game here. So yeah, both of those sound interesting. Obviously, Among Us VR is just for the meme, right? But yeah, I enjoyed the last showcase they did. It was heavily carried by Resident Evil 4 for me. So that's probably a bit of bias there, but I'm definitely going to be tuning into this. Yeah, that's awesome. Any thoughts on this, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm more interested in this one than the last one, just because they're at a point now where this is kind of Meta's last real chance to steal the show from Sony, in my eyes. That's if there isn't a PSVR 2 showcase before this, because that could well happen. But in my eyes, this is where they need to show off all their big exclusives they've got in development from their various studios. They've got quite a few studios at this point that haven't released a game in a few years, and it's probably about time to show stuff off for the Quest 2. I don't think we get a new headset or anything here. As far as I know, the only thing that is anywhere close to release is that Quest Pro. I can't remember what they call it, but it was more. It's not designed for game use, right? It's more
the
of
corporate one.
an XR headset, yeah. So it's not really designed strictly for VR use. But I don't think we see that here because this is a meta gaming showcase, right? Maybe San Andreas VR because they did talk about that in the last showcase thing. There's potential we see that here. I'm not really excited for that after what's been happening with Rockstar's support on their other projects. So
it's not by Rockstar, is it?
Well, no, but neither was the collection.
That's true,
so...
but that was marketed by Rockstar. Honestly, I trust it's kind of crazy, but I trust Meta more with the GTI IP, which is crazy.
It's not it's the team doing it.
It's
the guys
the team
the
under
LA
Meta,
Noire
yeah.
VR game.
Oh, so it's okay, that makes sense.
Who knows how it's gonna turn out?
I played the LA Noire VR game. That was alright. It was decent.
Okay. But yeah, so I imagine that's there. I still really want to see Stress Level Zero's next game. I doubt it's gonna be here, but I always have hope when Oculus announce events, just because that project was initially announced at Oculus Connect, so it's possible. I mean, the last time I heard anything about that, I don't even know when. It was probably October, November last year. Brandon from Stress Level Zero basically put up a video on their Instagram saying he's got an early version of the trailer on his phone, and whilst they're not releasing it publicly, if you bump into him in person, he'll show you the trailer. I was like, this is so weird. They were basically just saying the trailer's not ready yet, but I've got a version of it on my phone. So if they had a trailer in development back then, why is it not I don't understand how they still haven't revealed that game. But if they want to leave it closer to release, fair enough. I'm just very excited about that game, so hopefully we see that here maybe. Other than that, I think the only other thing that might happen is seeing a title from Sanzaru, who did Asgard's Wrath. Before that did Sly Cooper 4, but they did get bought by Oculus, and Asgard's Wrath is about 3 years old now, I think. So they'll be deep into development on their next title at this point. So I think we could definitely see that here. And I imagine Beat Saber will show up in some form with some kind of announcement of some pack, because it's always there. Maybe Pistol Whip as well, because they have a good partnership with Oculus. But yeah, I'm definitely going to tune in, but I'm not I really don't know what they're going to show, but I have a feeling they're going to show some bigger new things.
We should probably talk. I mean, another possibility would probably be the Ubisoft games they're working on, right?
That's possible, yeah.
So maybe
I don't think that shows up here, because I think Ubisoft would want to show that off at their own event. I don't think they'd want to have it shown
I thought that with Resident Evil 4,
event.
if it's an exclusive game for the Quest, it would definitely be something that MetaQuest does, right? Because that's the same thing with Resident Evil.
I don't know, but Resident Evil's not it wasn't a new game, right? It's just a port of Resident Evil 4, whereas the stuff that they're doing for Assassin's Creed and Splinter Cell are new games.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like, it could show up either or, but I
There
feel like
is a rumored
Ubisoft.
Ubisoft or like I think
I mean, they'll
some
have
sort of
something around
keynote. Yeah.
E3 time, right? Like they
Yeah.
always do. I imagine they'll have a Ubisoft Connect around then.
True.
But yeah, I don't. I honestly don't know. Like, it could show up at either or, but I just feel like it's too big to show at an Oculus event. Like, I feel like if I was Ubisoft, I would know that you're gonna get more people's attention at your own show than at the MetaQuest showcase. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think many people are gonna tune into that. So if I was them, I wouldn't be revealing it there. But who knows? There are people that are much smarter than me doing this stuff. So
Yeah. Interesting stuff. I do wonder if this showcase does in any way hint that a PSVR 2 showcase is going to happen. I don't know how it would, but like maybe, I don't know. It just seems
the
like
with
Sony should do something soon. But they're also like a year away if it is Q1. So if they go the PS5 route, we don't need to hear anything from PSVR 2 for quite some time.
well, the
Especially when
weird
they're
thing
still selling
is
PS5s. But yeah.
with it, like, we've been hearing more rumors recently that there is a PSVR 2 event happening relatively soon, mainly because obviously they were
From
showing
who?
the hardware off pretty heavily at
At
GDC.
GDC,
Both
yeah.
Greg Miller and Jeff Grubb were talking about it this week. That was one of the big rumors they've been hearing about recently. Nothing like official, because if there was, they'd be under NDA. But they've been hearing that that's happening relatively soon. And that was one of the things they heard might be happening this week, but it doesn't sound like it is. Which is why I'm kind of like weird about this date, because if I was Oculus, I'd want to do this showcase before Sony, because I feel like whatever Sony do with PSVR 2 is immediately going to outshine Oculus. Because most of the industry is going to be way more interested in PSVR 2 than any other headset. Just because, the software and price point is just going to be better than anything Oculus can offer, I think. So, it would be better to get ahead of that stuff, but who knows? I don't know when that showcase will happen. I want to say it's going to happen in April, within the next few weeks, but
Yeah. Honestly, like the time frame with Sony, I am so confused on right now because I expected the PS5 to be shown off like a lot sooner than it was. Like hell, we got like the date or like yeah, we did get the official release date in like September for
yeah,
the
it was
PS5.
September,
It was
yeah.
like literally 2 months before it came out. Like I feel like a lot of people forget like how long Sony and Microsoft waited for those consoles. Granted, it was in the pandemic, right? But I'm just cautiously optimistic for getting any sort of news for PSVR 2 because of that. I do think they should still do it, but like there's definitely factors that they got to consider because obviously there's still people struggling to get PS5s, which I mean they kind of can't wait for at the same time because they're not going to solve that in like the next month. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I want to see it sooner than later. I want to be excited for VR. Uh, yeah, I just don't know. Honestly, it's must be suck. Like it must suck to be figuring that stuff out because yeah, they got quite some challenges. But hopefully, we'll see that sooner than later. And speaking of showcases, one that is actually official is the State of Unreal. And yeah, this was only announced like a few minutes before we started recording. Yeah, Epic is doing a State of Unreal on April 5th, so just next week. Essentially, they're just exploring what's in store for the next for Unreal Engine games, right? Probably like they have a keynote, but like honestly, like if we were gonna tell you what to expect, like we're bullshitting because like we honestly don't know what to expect from this thing. Like they've never done anything before like this, so obviously it's gonna be very centered on like I'm guessing the engine, but the way they word it is they also mention like games and stuff like that. So I have no idea. Epic hasn't really like announced games on their own before like this, to my knowledge, but we'll find out here soon enough what this thing is, gonna be about. But yeah, they officially, I'll say, is they said exploring what's in store for the future of games and very exciting Unreal news. So yeah, take that with what you will. What did you get that from? What did you get from that, Charlie?
I don't really know, to be honest. If I was to guess what it's gonna be like, I would imagine it's something similar to what Nvidia do when they show off new hardware. In that they'll talk pretty in depth about what's going on underneath the hood, and I imagine they'll talk about what new features they're working on for Unreal 5 and that kind of thing. But then they tend to also show tiny little snippets of games that are using those features. So when it comes to Nvidia, they'll show clips of games using RTX or DLSS, that kind of stuff. I maybe they'll show some games that are in development for Unreal 5, and just be like, here's a little sizzle reel of games using the engine, and here's some new technologies they're using potentially. I don't know what the exciting Unreal news will be because I don't know enough about the developer side to know what they're currently working on. Um, like I was saying to you before we started, Brandon, I thought maybe it's coming available to the public, but you said that's already a thing. So I don't know what it would be, honestly. I imagine it'll be something big for developers. Looking at the rest of like the event, it seems to be a lot of focus on the engine itself, right? They're doing two like things about the Matrix demo and how that was made, and then also like creating your first project on Unreal. So it looks like it's more of a developer face thing, but I don't know if I'll watch it live, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it because I don't know what kind of thing they're going to show off here. But if they're saying it's exciting Unreal news, then I'm gonna hold them to it.
Yeah, definitely sounds interesting. I'll definitely be hopefully tuning in depending on what time it is. I think it's like midday, so I might be in class, but we'll see. Exciting stuff for sure. Anyways, a cool news story that I'm sure a lot of people are excited about is the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe finally has a release date, and it's 4/27. This is actually like a game reference, I believe. So, yeah, April 27th, not too far away. I looked up what this is. Apparently, it's like a expanded reimagining of the 2013 title. It's gonna have like new endings and choices, as well as they brought back like the same guy that did the narrator. So, seems like a reimagining of the classic game, which is interesting. I haven't fully played through the game before. I know it's one of those classic games that's up there on Steam that you got to play. Yeah, definitely want to do that at some point. Charlie, what do you think about all this? Have you played the original game before?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. I love Stanley Parable. It's one of my favorite games. I even remember playing it way back when it first came out on like Source Engine, when it was a mod.
How long is it?
It's so well. It depends. You can beat like it the first time round probably in like 30 minutes, but
Okay.
like there's multiple endings, and it's very the whole like idea of the game is you play it through multiple times, right? Because there are lots of different things that can happen. I'm very excited about this. They announced this like nearly just over 3 years ago. Like this was at Game
Yeah,
Awards
2018.
2018. They announced this. And it's changed a lot over the years. I think originally it was just kind of like an expanded version, bringing it to consoles. But more recently, they've kind of teased that it is a bit more than just extra endings, and the latest trailer does kind of tease that there's actually a lot more to the game, which I'm very excited about because that game's great. So more content in that, just with that writing and that team, is going to be awesome. It's also cool because Stanley Parable was made by a different dev team to who's currently doing this. Basically, after Stanley Parable came out, it was a two-man team from Galactic Cafe. So you have William Poog, or however you say his name, who did went on to do like Accounting Plus and like Trover and that kind of thing.
That makes sense.
He made Crows. Whilst the other guy, I can't think of his name, the guy who wrote Stanley Parable, he did the Beginner's Guide and made his own studio. But he's basically teamed up with Crows to write Stanley Parable again, which I think is great. So yeah, I'm super excited about it. I'm definitely going to be buying it straight away. Probably on PC again, to be honest. But yeah, I'm very excited about it. It's going to be cool for people who have never played it as well, because obviously this is the first time it's on console. So yeah, I'm very excited about it.
I was gonna say, like, when you said 30 minutes, and like I know you're supposed to replay it multiple times, like that gets me interested because it's something I could just knock out and like have experience with pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely wait for this version just because if they're gonna say like new endings and stuff, that's like pretty dramatic stuff. Yeah, that's awesome. Look forward to that. And yeah, we'll move on. We got some cool Firesprite news. Essentially, there's a reporting from VGC that they're working on a AAA horror title. So yeah, this surprised me just because I was talking to Charlie like right before the podcast. They have like what the Horizon VR game they're currently working on, and then according to rumors that we reported on like 2 months ago, obviously nothing that we heard ourselves, but like VGC, that they took over the Twisted Metal project that Sony originally had with the Destruction All Stars team, Lucid Games. So yeah, that would be a third thing they're working on, and if this game's like a AAA game, I don't know how big they are, but they definitely staffed up after Sony bought them because yeah, that's crazy. Still very cool stuff. AAA horror title. I'm guessing that's obviously going to be a AAA exclusive, right? Because they're bought. I'm definitely down for that. I think Sony's kind of lacking in like the horror space, so that's awesome. Like AAA horror sounds great. Honestly, excited for all the projects they're working on. Horizon VR, obviously, just because it's a VR game, it's going to probably be like one of the biggest ones on PSVR 2. It's Horizon, cool world. Also, the Twisted Metal game sounds interesting just because it's a very different game in the PlayStation portfolio right now. And then, yeah, AAA horror. I love atmosphere. It's like the most important part of a game for me. So, yeah, definitely excited. What'd you think about all this, Charlie?
Yeah, like you, I think it's interesting that they're working on so much because, as far as I know, they're not a massive studio. They have been expanding in recent years, especially after, teaming up with PlayStation. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what this is. I never played the Persistence, which is like their last game. As far as I know, it's like the only like bigger game they've done. But I never played it, so I don't really know their experience with like horror games and stuff. So yeah, the only project like I'm really interested in from them recently is obviously Horizon. Twisted Metal be interesting. But yeah, I honestly like I have no kind of basis on what to think about it because I've never played any of their stuff, right? So I don't know how it's gonna turn out. But I mean, it's Sony first party. They're clearly putting trust in them if they're letting them work on this many projects, right? So yeah, I'm interested to see what it is, but I have no kind of grounds to speak about it really.
Yeah, the Persistence on PSVR, I tried it a bit, only for like a few minutes because I think it was like one of the demos they had or something like that. Uh, yeah, it's pretty creepy stuff. I think like mixed. I think there had like a moment where like enemies would chase you, and obviously you're in VR in first person, which is creepy. So like think like Resident Evil kind of stuff where people are looking for you, Alien Isolation, I think. But yeah, I've only heard nothing but praise about that game, so I'm sure they're gonna go on to do like really good things for Sony, and we'll hopefully see that soon. So that's awesome. And speaking of Sony, as the trend will continue with this episode, yeah, PlayStation Plus games for April were announced, and it looks like it's going to be probably one of their better months. So first of all, what was the full name title? Like the Hood multiplayer title? I know
Outlaws and Legends.
Outlaws and Legends. So that multiplayer game that we saw at that State of Play last year, that's going to be the game for PS4 and PS5. And then the two PS4 titles are SpongeBob, I think it's like Battle Bikini Bottom, something like that. It's the SpongeBob classic PlayStation 2 game, the good one, essentially. And Slay the Spire, which is one of my favorite games. Like, I quit playing that game because it was so addicting. Like, I only played like a few hours, and I was like, this is too addicting. Like, there's few hours for like one night only. And I was like, I'm going to lose my life if I keep playing this. So I like purposely stopped myself from playing it. And now it's a free PS4 game, so great. But yeah, great month. I think all those games are. Oh, I know at least SpongeBob and Slay the Spire are good, and Hood is like a recent release, so that's why I said it's a good month. I definitely do want to try Hood. I think the only person I know that's played Hood is you, Charlie. What'd you think about that game and overall like the PS Plus lineup?
So Hood was okay, but it had so many problems at launch with like balancing and stuff. And they just took too long to do it all, and the player base died off super quick. I imagine this will boost it somewhat. I know they're still releasing content. I think they said that the third season is launching alongside this, but I don't think it's really adding much other than cosmetics. So my guess is they've kind of stopped working on the game like properly, which is a shame because it had a lot of potential. It just needed a lot more work. I might give it another go when this comes to PS4 and 5. I might just install it on PC again and just see what's going on because it is crossplay, so it might boost the players everywhere a bit. But I don't know how much work they did to it post-launch, to be honest, because I didn't play it too much after those first few weeks. SpongeBob is one I think I've had on disc for like over a year at this point. I bought it really cheap and I just haven't played it because I remember that game on PS2. And then Slay the Spire I have on Steam. Like you, I played a few hours and I really liked it, but I put it down because I think there was just other things at the time, and then I've wanted to go back to it the past like few months, but I've been holding off because I know it's gonna work really well on Steam Deck. So I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for my Steam Deck to show up, and that'll be one of the games I have on there because just an easy card game on the go. Like I'll just play it then. So that's where I'll be playing it, but it's cool for people that it's there because I've played a bit. It's pretty cool, and then I've heard that it's really really good. So definitely a decent month, I'd say, at least with SpongeBob and Slay the Spire. I think it's crazy that we're still not getting like 2 PS5 games a month though at this point. Like,
Yeah,
I've been
it's like a
thinking
year and a
about
half
it
in.
recently. I'm like a year and a half in, and we're still only getting one PS5 game, and even then, it's not really
It's
like
not
some
really.
months because sometimes it's half and half. And I get they say like it's backwards compatible, but it's not really the same considering we used to get what with the PS4 at launch we had like 2 PS4 games a month, 2 PS3 games a
That was
month,
a crazy era, and two
uh,
Vita games, I think, right?
2 Vita
It
games,
was
yeah.
wild.
So yeah, we used to get 6 games a month. So they've definitely dwindled that roster over the past few years. So hopefully that changes relatively soon, and we start getting 4 games a month at least. But who knows? It depends. I don't think they'll change it anytime soon because they still get subscribers, right? So why would they? Um, but yeah, it'd be nice to see them do 2 PS5 games a month again.
Yeah, exactly. If they're not complaining, why give them more, I guess. But yeah, that's a solid month for sure. And speaking of PlayStation Plus, we probably should mention that PlayStation Spartacus was officially revealed. We talked about this on the episode that went out earlier this week. And yeah, we got the official details. So yeah, the naming convention is going to be Essential, Extra, and Premium. I think that was the one that Jeff Grubb was also like just pretty much getting at. It's launching in Asia first, but then really soon followed by other territories because essentially they said I think they want to get like most of it by the end of the first half of the year. So yeah, I'm actually gonna look up what this stuff is because honestly, I do not care about the subscription service at all, and I forgot what they're including. I know the first one is essentially just PS Plus as it is right now. It's the same price. So yeah, nothing changing there. And then the 2 extra tiers are PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. So Extra is going to essentially add a catalog of like 400 PS4 and PS5 games. Interestingly enough, they hardly like list any titles. I think they mentioned like God of War and like Death Stranding and like the Spider-Man games, which that one, I will say that one surprised me. Spider-Man being on the subscription service. But yeah, besides that, not a lot of details. So yeah, that's an extra $5 a month for a catalog of 400 or so games. I think that's a pretty good deal, like 400 games depending on the quality of them. It's different from PS Now. This is like native like PS4 and PS5 games, so that's pretty cool. And then an extra $3 a month, so bring it up to $18 a month, is essentially PS Plus Premium, the highest tier. And then this one is the one that offers essentially PlayStation Now. So yeah, streaming for PS2 games and classic games like that. There is also like retro games, which they're really light on details with, but they just say like a catalog of like beloved classic games. They say both streaming and download options. It's really weird wording because like this still doesn't really like clarify whether or not this is like streaming like classic games and also there's like very few PlayStation 2 games that you can find on the store, or if they're like adding like games that have never seen the light of day natively on like PlayStation yet, since like PS2 and PSP. But I think that could be cool depending on how many of these ones are like newly native games. They made it pretty clear in this blog post that any PS3 game is going to be through cloud streaming. They didn't solve backwards compatibility, which I pretty much said like last week. Like if that was a thing that they solved, you wouldn't be seeing like Bloomberg report just on the subscription service alone. They would have like probably an old like a dedicated article that they solved backwards compatibility because that would be crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much been it. They also have like time limited trials for that last tier, which to me doesn't really interest me much. But if it's like on like every single new exclusive, I think that could be cool. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Charlie? Are you planning on picking it up or just keeping your PS Plus subscription?
Yeah, I think for the time being, I'm probably just gonna stick with normal PS Plus, right? I don't pay for PS Now right now, and there's a reason for that. Most of the games on there I don't need to play, and I don't care about streaming games because, as I said last week on the podcast, internet's not really good enough over here to warrant streaming. Also, there's still no PlayStation Now app on mobile. Like, what's the point if I can't even do it on the go? Like, I can stream stuff to my console or my PC but not my phone. So like, You can't even do it on the go. It kind of defeats the point of it. So, maybe if they make an app, maybe that'd be kind of cool. The fact that PS3 is just streaming only, we said last week, was probably going to be the case. It's a shame that it is, but I'm kind of weird about the whole like PS1, 2, and PSP games being, it seems half and half. Like it says some of them are going to be available for like download. My guess is the PS1 and PSP games are streaming, and that the PS2 games that are currently available to buy on the store you can download, and the rest will be streaming, would be my guess. So stuff like Bully and the GTA games and that kind of stuff will probably be you can download it because there are native versions, right, that you can buy, whereas everything else will probably be streaming. It seems like I did see some people saying they've removed some stuff from PS Now because the numbers don't seem to add up, and it seems like they are actually taking some stuff out, which would make sense if they're going to be adding in a lot of PS4 and 5 games onto there now. They're going to remove some of the other stuff. I think some people were figuring out that roughly it would be about 20 PSP games and about 20 PS1 games based on what they were saying. So you're literally going to get like, hopefully the big games from those platforms. I think the only thing that would interest me in it is the PSP stuff, because right now there isn't a way at all to play those like on PS Now or anything, and I'd really like to go back and play some of those PSP games. If they had like Pursuit Force on there, I used to love that game. If they added like Pursuit Force and Pursuit Force Extreme Justice, like those games were great.
Or like the Final Fantasy 7 Crisis something.
Crisis Core, yeah, that was a
Crisis
good game.
Core. Yeah.
And like the Daxter game and
Secret Agent
stuff
Clank.
like that. Secret Agent Clank. Like those are the kind of games I don't think they'd add, because I don't think they're like the top tier of PSP in their eyes. It would probably be stuff like the God of War games and that kind of thing, which is still both great. But that's the thing that interests me more. But I'd still much prefer if it was all download, just because streaming isn't for me personally.
I love how every era of PlayStation, like everything, like hardware they've ever released is on here besides Vita. Like essentially, I guess no PSVR, but yeah,
they could definitely add it at some point. I mean, some people were trying to say like, well, how would the touch controls work? But I mean, a lot of the games worked on that Vita TV thing, so they were already, some of those games were already designed to work on a PS3 controller anyway. So they could definitely do it at some point. I think the only thing for me that might convince me to get the service, if it ends up that every month they're going to be adding a ton of games and they're going to warrant you wanting this service, if they're adding, 20 PS1, PS2, and PSP games every month, like a big back catalog consistently. And if they eventually, make PS3 back compat, which I think is possible, I think at some point they will do that. Because I think it's something that Sony, I think it's something that they're actively looking into. I mean, you look at a lot of the patents that like Mark Cerny and stuff is filing.
Single-handedly.
Like he's constantly looking into that stuff because clearly he knows people want that stuff, and also just for people being able to preserve games. Like it's a very important thing to be able to do that. So I think it'll happen at some point. I just think it's one of those things where it's tough for them to get working on PS5 specifically. So yeah, I think it's possible. I just don't think it's going to happen for a while, hence why it was never mentioned in this. But for now, I think I'm going to stick with my service of Essential until at least they start going into more details. Maybe they'll, talk about it more in the next few months and they'll convince me otherwise. But for now, I don't think I'll be upgrading. But I am happy they've kept Essential, at least for now, at the same price as normal PS Plus, which is nice. They haven't increased it in any way.
Definitely. That would have been like a shot in the foot.
Interestingly
enough, the PSP games will be downloadable to play, because they did say like the PS Plus Deluxe version, that's like essentially going to be for markets that don't have PlayStation Now. They say that we'll be offering a lower price compared to Premium, and it'll include a catalog of beloved classic games from the original PlayStation, PS2, and PSP games. So yeah, that's exciting that you'll be able to download PSP games natively on PS4. So I might subscribe for a month depending on that PSP lineup.
Yeah.
Or probably just that retro lineup in general, because I could play some of those like classic Resident Evil games as well, or something like that. I might subscribe for sure. We'll see. Because I definitely do. Like, I almost bought that, like, PlayStation 1, like, retro console they released. I forgot what it was called, like, a few years ago. But
oh, like the PS1 Classic. Or
yeah, but it's like $100. I was like, I don't really feel like that. So if I can, like, play a lot of games I just don't have access to besides, like, emulation, I might. It depends on that retro catalog, which, again, they don't really give you details here, which kind of sucks. Yeah, we'll wait until they do that. I'm sure they'll iron out more of that, the detail side of things, as we get closer to June. So look forward to that. And yeah, we shall move on. A sad news story that's dropped this week, but also wasn't really that shocking, is Breath of the Wild 2 has been officially delayed to spring 2023. I know Charlie's been saying this for ages. Actually, I think, no, you originally said like spring 2022 because we originally thought it was going to be like competing with next gen. Holy, this game's been delayed for like crazy long. I remember we thought this would be competing with PS5, and now PS5's been out for a year and a half.
When they announced the holiday date, I did say it would be next year.
Okay.
I didn't think it would be this year.
Yeah, March. I think they're just gonna go for that March time frame again. I think that's better. Yeah. Who knows what they have for the end of this year? Nintendo's always a wild card. Like, I could totally see them having like a Mario game for the end of this year. I've been waiting for Odyssey 2, but I'm at a point where I'm just accepting that that's not a thing and that they're just going to do something else. But, like, I feel like that had, like, a lot of potential, especially since we didn't see Odyssey DLC, really. Like, we saw that, like, Luigi minigame, but, like, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, Breath of the Wild 2, though, at its core, not surprised just because, like, I don't know, this game I just never have really expected. Like, it's always been like God of War for me, where it's like I still kind of don't even think God of War is this year, just in the back of my head, even though that one is probably more likely. But yeah, it's just when it comes out, right? You don't want to screw up Breath of the Wild 2, if anything, right? Like, that's a sequel to one of the best games of all time. You don't want to screw that one up. It's beloved by many people, including myself. So when that game does eventually come out, I want it to be have that same sort of magic as the first game. So take all the time you need. We say this for every delay. Do you have any more thoughts on that, Charlie? Or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, not surprising at all. It's gonna be crazy if it does come out in March. That's gonna be 6 years between the two games.
That's I feel old now. Jeez.
I worry that people aren't gonna take like the development time into account when people play it, because for me, I just don't think there's gonna be enough there for me to go, wow, this warranted 6 years of development. But who knows? Like, everything they've shown about it doesn't scream out to me like it's going to be, like, as amazing or as mind-blowing as the first one was. Just because it seems like it's the same map with an extra, like, layer and some new stuff. And I just don't know... Like, obviously we haven't seen the game fully, so maybe they'll do something crazy. But so far, from what's been said, both officially and unofficially, there's nothing to suggest that this is gonna be, like, insanely worth the wait. But who knows? I hope it's really good. I loved the first one, so I do have hope for it. The brief little, like, snippet of footage that was new that they showed here looked cool, where you see, like, Link with his long hair again, and he's got, like, a broken Master Sword, and I'm like, man, if they make this sword break, like, that was the only weapon that didn't break in the first game. So if they make this sword break now as well, like, I'm gonna be sad. And he has this weird Ganon hand again, so I don't know what's going on there. That looked cool. But yeah, I'm excited to see more. If we don't see anything at a Nintendo Direct at E3, I'm gonna be annoyed. I won't know what Nintendo are doing. Like, just show me a full-on, like, gameplay demo.
I want Treehouse. I want like 20 minutes of like raw footage. Like,
there better be. I'll be disappointed if they're in. But yeah, I like I said before, I'm not shocked at all. Makes sense to me. Yeah, March. If I was to guess, it's just gonna be March 3rd. Like, they're just gonna hit the same date, right? Just
if
the
that
anniversary.
lines up. Yeah, if it lines up for sure.
Actually, let me check real quick. Let's have a look. 2023 March. It's a Friday, so
March 3rd?
Yeah, so
well, there you go. That's the day, probably.
That's the date, boys.
If they don't do that, then that's like a missed opportunity, because I feel like that date's iconic because it's the Switch 6th anniversary. Yeah, that's funny. I do think it'll be sequel worthy. Everything they've shown so far hasn't really been like sequel worthy, and I've been like one of the biggest advocates that I want like a new map and stuff. But everything like tells me like they're not showing the full picture. Like, I feel like Hyrule will be very different. Obviously the footage shows him in the sky, the first trailer was like in the caves. So I feel like we're gonna explore like different areas of Hyrule, like both above and below. There's also been like obviously the rumors that it's gonna be like a flipped version of Hyrule, like we're gonna go on the other side of it or something, like upside down. I don't know. It has to be something big. Like there's no, even Nintendo being Nintendo, they don't usually screw up like big games like this. Like usually the big Mario and Zelda titles are always iconic. If it's been like 6 years, they surely are probably going to deliver on this one. I don't really have any like worries about it. I just think they haven't really showed it off in like the best way yet. But yeah, we'll see. Definitely want some footage. Hopefully we'll get that at not E3 but June, some sort of like event. But yeah, we'll move on. Anyways, Charlie, I'm mad that you put this in the doc, but Bluebox removes all posts regarding Abandoned. I don't want to talk about this studio. I don't believe this game exists.
That's what I put. I put in brackets, let's be real, it can't be cancelled if it never existed, because it's
come on,
true.
This is like the weirdest news story. The fact that Sony hasn't commented on it is bizarre, because it was like making so many headlines and like...
Well, I don't know if you saw, but one of the big people around Dark Souls, what's his name, like Lance something, he was basically saying like how Sony's marketing stuff works with like indie studios is they get given a budget and it's their choice how they use that budget. And apparently Bluebox just decided to spend all of that budget on those trailers and the blog posts. So that's why Sony haven't said anything, is because they blew all this marketing on the stuff for the prologue, and now they have nothing. I did see alongside this, there was like, when the news article came out, or like there was a post about them removing the tweets, some musician responded saying that he had written some music for the game to be used, and then they just blanked him. And like he sent them like all like instrumental versions of his music, and then that Hassan guy responded to his tweet being like, "Don't lie, we said we weren't going to use your music. We've got another musician doing the soundtrack now."
This game is just brilliant. Just everything surrounding.
And I was like, "What is going on? Like this."
These guys
so
clearly
weird.
haven't done like indie stuff. Obviously, like I don't know how they're screwing up this bad.
It's just not real. I honestly, it's clearly just a Hassan guy scamming his country out of money, scamming Sony out of money. Like, I don't get it, man. It's so weird. And the fact that there are still people believing this is Silent Hills, or even a game.
There are people still believing that it's Kojima related 9 months after that summer fiasco. Are you serious?
Right, if Josh is watching this, I feel like does Josh still believe this stuff? I feel like he does.
Nah, he doesn't. I don't know.
Okay, he better not. Because I feel like that man was believing it for a long, long time. And he needs to get over it. That game does not exist. But yeah, some people are still on it. And I just don't understand how or why. Like, this never existed. It never will exist. Move on.
Yeah.
But I had to put it here because it was funny.
Yeah, fair enough. We haven't talked about it for months, so I guess it warrants an appearance here for a joke. But we're going to go from the lows of lows to the highs of highs. Sony filed a trademark for Knack. Man, I got excited because we were hearing rumors that this week was going to be big for PlayStation, and then we got a Knack trademark, and I was like, yo, the stars are aligning. But yeah, no Knack news this week, so feels bad, man. But yeah, next week is a new week. Knack VR 2 something, I don't know. We'll see. Knack is back. Knack 2 is honestly a good game. It's underrated. Knack 1 is like
Knack 2 is
average,
great.
But Knack 2 is good.
More people need to play Knack 2 because it's. Wasn't it?
It had a good story.
It had a
good story. I don't know if you remember that story, but it had a decent story. Like nothing
the story
crazy,
was decent, yeah.
The story was decent.
But it was just like
the gameplay.
They literally took the combat of like 3 buttons and then they just moved it and they added like full on like skill trees and fun combat,
cool.
like and really good platform. Like it was a really good game. But yeah, I hope a third one happens. I still think one day it will, just because it's Mark Cerny's baby.
Mark Cerny.
And Mark will not let that series die.
Mark's like,
I hope he
in
doesn't.
exchange for these patents, you got to let me develop Knack 3 with Japan Studio.
I don't know. This is the thing. I don't know who would develop it now because Japan Studio doesn't really exist anymore. So I wonder if it'd be Asobo, or is it Asobo or Asobi?
Asobi.
Asobo is the guys who do flight sim. That's why I get confused.
Yeah,
They got
I
similar
always get those
names.
confused. I always think
Yeah,
they have
yeah.
like the same name, but they have like I and O. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. So yeah, I wonder if they would do it, but they're busy with Astrobot, so I don't know. And I feel like all of that team, if they were offered the choice, I don't think they'd pick Knack. Even though I wish they would. I
They do
don't
it.
think
They
that.
do Astrobot, to be honest. Like,
But
yeah.
this is the weird thing as well, is I don't know where Knack would fit in their
Yo,
current
what if they do a
lineup, right?
collaboration with Astrobot and Knack, and we get like a
A
collaboration game?
crossover.
That'd be sick. I
That
would
would be
honestly
pretty
buy that.
cool.
That'd be cool.
I hope it happens. The thing is, I saw people meme and they were like, Sony actually think all the people like saying Knack 3 baby are being serious and they want Knack 3. But the truth is, I do want Knack 3.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
hope
We're
Sony
not
do
kidding.
take it seriously because we're not kidding.
Yeah,
Knack
we're
2 was
not kidding.
great. There are some people who are kidding, but we're not. So
Most people are kidding, but Charlie and I want an Act 3.
yeah,
Yeah.
we do want it. So
It's the
one
only
day
competition
we'll
to
get it.
Elden Ring that we got is an Act 3.
It's true. Knack 3 Game of the Year.
Exactly. You heard it here. But yeah, that has been it for episode 63 of Critically Incorrect. Fun week full of cool news. Yeah, definitely awesome to see. Yeah, we'll see you next week for episode 64. See you later.
See you later.